All right, so for any Belvoir franchises that are not clear on what Kerfuffle's about and what they can offer, we just wanted to have a little chat today, just so you get a flavour. And then obviously if you wanted to take it to the next level, you can. And you obviously, I'm sure that Simon and Richard will give us their contact details so you can do that. But really, because of the restrictions that we found in our regional meetings, where central office now are a little bit reluctant to showcase suppliers, we just thought this was an informal opportunity for people to just get a take on things. And obviously if this, you know, we get a bit of interest, this might get momentum and we might do others. I've got other suppliers that are quite interested, but I think obviously with the Kerfuffle setup, you're sort of the gatekeepers of suppliers as well. So we can do this, you can say a few words each, and then we can sort of fire a few questions at you if you want to do that. Rather than a presentation, just give us an idea of where you're coming from as a company. Is that all right with the three of you that are here so far? Right, I'm going to put it onto speaker view then.
Cool.
Here we go. Right, off you go.
We're not doing any PowerPoint presentations or anything else. No. I take the offer of a coffee very seriously. So thanks for inviting us here, and I'm really pleased to be talking to you guys. Yeah, as Zoe said, I don't know if Richard's the straight man. I don't know what that makes me, but I'll just accept that I look a bit like a Mr. Tumble. So we'll take it from there. But behind the business and this rather playful exterior, we've got a really serious thing that's happening, I think, at the moment, and a lot of agents are telling us that they're finding us a really useful resource to tap into. Zoe, you've been through a large part of it, we'll obviously come on to that later on, but very, very simply, I sold, many of you will know the company Repit as a CRM product. I sold them 3 years ago, and I set up Kerfuffle. And I set up Kerfuffle really simply because at the time there was no single place to go to, believe it or not, no A to Z of suppliers in the industry, and I found that absolutely bizarre. So I looked at what happened in there in the wider world, saw there was like resources like TripAdvisor, Which Magazine, Groupon, and because I'm not particularly innovative, I thought I'll just steal all those ideas and put them into Kerfuffle. So we're here as almost a marketplace to choose literally and siphon the good suppliers from the bad suppliers, hopefully saving you time, because your inboxes will be as barraged as mine are. You'll be getting phone calls from prop tech people promising you the world and how all these different things are going to solve their needs, and half of them you don't need. And what we do is we try to listen to your requirements. Each company is different and has different challenges, and match the right suppliers. That's the core thing, is to match your suppliers up. We also do some very, very neat little things, like we give you your own little supplier dashboard, which enables you to manage all your suppliers in one place. And if you want to, you can go to the extent of putting things like contract expiry dates in there. And what that stops at a single blow is stopping you. Suppliers have a pretty naughty trick where they just bounce you into new contract terms where you might have had no intention. We warn you in advance to make sure that if you're signing up to a new contract, you know about it. And indeed, most of our clients ask us if there is a contract renewal in date, just to check they're on the best package. And we'll come back to you with what we've been able to kind of liaise with the suppliers. And you can still always go back to them and chip a bit more, but a lot of people like that time saving feature. And that bit is actually entirely free. So you can have your dashboard, and you can use that yourselves. If you wanted us to do that hands-on for you, though, we have what's called the agency membership model. It's only £36 per month. It has that element where we're proactive, and twice a year we will do these kind of reviews where we sit down digitally online and discuss what you've got. And if you want us to, and you can say to us, look, I'm looking for something because I need help managing my leads, or, you know, I needed a new board contract, or whatever else it is there. But we've just added in two more really important features into that agency membership model, apart from that supplier bit. So the supplier bit is to get your best partners. The next bit is obviously your people. Everyone always tells us your people are the most important. So we all, you know, many people will have their favorite trainers out there, whether that's a Julian O'Dell, a Tony Morris, a Josh Fegan. But in reality, you know, the amount of times that you can get those guys into your offices when they cost, you know, £1,500 a day is, you know, they're only ever going to remain a luxury item. So we've created our own online learning management system, which has a variety of those different trainers. Primarily it's Tony Morris and Julian at the moment, over 100 videos in there with things like like new starter modules, manager modules, valuer modules. We've got suppliers in there with the likes of Mr. Watkins and Property Video Solutions, helping you get the most out of, how to use video. And very simply, in a Netflix style environment, you can give you and your team access to this, and all of the videos are kind of 5 to 10 minutes to get, to get the best out of it. And people are telling us they love that approach. So that's to hopefully improve your people again. And then the last thing really is just in terms of helping you with your process and your strategy. Again, if you were to go to a lot of the, the top consultants in the industry, yes, you'd be paying, those kind of 1.5K, day rates, which again are pretty unpalatable. So what we've done in that model is we've given you access to people like Richard, who we'll talk about in a minute in his background, to tap into their skill set. And that normally takes place over over a course of an hour meeting initially, where we say, what are your 3 biggest issues? And once you've told us stop, you're not allowed to do that because that's obvious. We will start to, Rich will just come up with a solution for a number of those issues. And again, I'll let Rich talk about some of the hands-on things, but people are really enjoying that process, again, of just being able to help out with some of those spinning plates. So with those, hopefully those nice 3 things, we think at that really nice price point, we're helping people with three of their main issues. So hopefully that gives you a bit of context. And I think obviously you've been through it, Zoe. You're probably in a better place than anyone to kind of comment on how that works in reality.
Do you want me to say something now, or do you want Richard to sort of chip in?
It's the first time I've ever heard you want me to let you talk. I mean, that's incredible. This is a first. Have we got this recorded?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can listen to what Rich has to say on some of the specifics. Then that might be useful.
Yeah, Rich, go first, and then I'll chip in. And if any of you that are listening have got a question, put your hand up and fire away. We don't want this to be talking at you. We want it to be a sort of conversation more than anything.
Absolutely.
But if you want to go, Rich.
Yeah. So whether business has changed slightly, whereas originally it was an e-commerce site where you could find a solution to the problem you've had, we've changed it and we've brought in agency experience. So my background is 25 years in agency, of which during that time, a couple of very small startups and exits, 1 branch, 2 branches. And then I went on to run a business 12 branch agency, and then the lettings director of a subsidiary of LSL. So 60 office lettings business, about 6,500 properties under management. We've got Paul Morgan in the business, who's the ex-IT director of a 30 branch estate agency business. And what might surprise you is we take the opinion whereby any tech should be purchased for ticking a number of boxes. 1, consumer experience. Secondly, user experience. Because it's great bringing a piece of tech in, but if your staff aren't going to do it, or it creates an additional 5 steps which take them away from revenue generating activity, they're either not going to do it, it's going to have a negative impact. And thirdly, efficiencies. So what we're trying to do is, rather than go, an agent says, I need a lead management tool, we're trying to dig a bit deeper, find out what the problem is, and come up with the right solution rather than, what's on the shelf at the time. So to give you an example, and probably one very common at the moment, is a multi-branch business came to us and said, we're not giving tenants customer service because actually 18 months ago, we averaged 300 inquiries a month, and we're now at 900 inquiries a month, but our stock has remained stable. We haven't all of a sudden listed 3 times as many properties. We've got the same amount of stock. So we looked at what they should be doing, and we came up with a process for them whereby an email inquiry came in, and we automatically generated what I would call a warts and all style video, whereby, the property which looks great on the front shot and is lovely inside, but actually next door, overgrown garden with a shopping trolley backing onto a railway line and nobody's going to take. Actually, if you want to reduce viewings and you want to improve efficiencies, you can't hide that from potential tenants. So let's send an automated video back with the warts and all, with the data capture, which is important. And therefore, the calls you're actually making are to tenants who are proceedable and can move in based on the requirements of that landlord. Similarly, another business furloughed a number of their staff at the beginning of lockdown, and they had an issue with renewals, which I knew was admin heavy, and actually the challenge was having that initial conversation with a tenant and the landlord and agreeing terms. So we went into their business and we automated that process up to an agreement. So, you know, an automated email or a chatbot went out to a landlord with some standard questions, you know, do you want to renew? I'll recommend, what's a recommended price increase? What term do you want to renew on, and so on. And once that came back in, it automated a text message to a tenant, which had the same questions. And then when it came back in, and as such for that business, they just prepared the tenancy agreements and sent them out rather than toing and froing on the phone. So that's just a couple of the solutions. But my point is, what we'll try and help you do is dig a bit deeper and find the right solution, just rather than something which looks great and shiny.
Yeah, I think for me, if I can chip in now, because it might help you, anyone that's listening today knows what I'm like. I don't take any shit and I don't suffer fools. And if anyone wants to disagree, feel free, but I'm sure you're all in agreement that's the way I am. The other difficulty I've got is if I see anything shiny and new and in a bit of tech, I get a little bit overexcited and I do want it without really thinking about it. And what I found with working with Simon and his team is that they're almost the gatekeepers. They're almost the people that keep me sane, in terms of, hang on a sec, do you think that's really the best thing for your business? And again, I think they're the gatekeepers for the salespeople, because as you all know, we can get inundated with calls and emails and bullshit from some of these suppliers, and they just look at your business and they're not telling you how to run your business, because if someone did that, then they'd be held to pay. They just point you in the right direction. So, you know, like they've said, they'll look at what you need and they'll find the right thing for it, rather than you get a washing machine when you need a tumble dryer. You know, it's as simple as that. And I just find, you know, they're open, they're honest, and they're not trying to sell you anything really. They're just, you know, they work with the suppliers, but if the suppliers are crap, they pretty much will tell you that as well. So that's my experience, and you know, it's had a positive outcome for me. But I don't know if Dave or Steve, you've got anything you want to ask, or is anything you want to know. Dean, if you could do the honours. Go on, Steve.
Do you have a list of suppliers that, you know, current list of suppliers?
Yeah, yes, we do. The main, if you go to kerfuffle.com, there's a full kind of A to Z broken down by, you know, just traditional kind of categories. So if you're looking, obviously, board contractors and things like that, we have them all in there. Or you can do it another way around. We can either send you an email or just a WhatsApp, and we, you know, you can tell us, actually, I'm looking for a particular, you know, email provider, and we will send you some recommendations back. There's no one area of the business, you know, in the industry, in fact, where there is just one dominant, brilliant supplier, you know. So what we will always try to do is give you at least two kind of recommendations, but based around the best ones we've seen out there. And I think the thing is, as well, is, you know, it is the review side of the site that keeps us honest, because you know, it's not like Property Industry Eye, where they're all anonymized, you know, reviews, which, you know, let's face it, it feels like half of the comments are made up. Everyone on there has to be registered, and we try to validate every single one of those as well. So, you know, if it is a Zoe Bywater, you know they've gone through the Zoe test, haven't they? Or if it's a Simon Bradbury or somebody like that. And I think that's a nice element. I mentioned at the beginning that I kind of borrowed from TripAdvisor. When I saw restaurants or hotels that actually friends or family I could see had been to, it carried more weight, didn't it? And I think that's quite a nice option there. So yeah, we can do it on a couple of different levels, or you can jump on a call, what we call our supplier MOT, which is part of we do give a month free trial, which we should have said at the beginning, where we actually spend an hour going through you, first of all, looking at your suppliers. You then have the opportunity to ask us, what are the exciting suppliers out there we should be looking at, and you have an extra an hour session free of charge with the likes of Richard, dependent on what your challenges are, just to sound us out on that kind of that expertise, that consultative expertise side.
I mean, just on that, we were working with a company with our phone system that was coming out of contract, and I think by working with you guys, we've saved probably about £250, £300 a month just on the phones. So, you know,
I think Zoe, that's really good to hear. I mean, we do believe that we are going to be able to save, as long as people make, at least kind of 3 supplier purchases in the year, with the deals that we are able to get, and you will get good ones being Belvoir, I accept that as well, but the deals you save should pay more than enough just for our membership. So the training, if you like, where we hope it will work in the long term, the training and the consultancy almost comes as just a nice feature of this. But I'll be really honest, we're doing the training and the consultancy because what we want you to do is just trust us enough on the supplier side of things, because of course we get like an Amazon style referral fee from those suppliers to do it. But because they love, the suppliers want access to as many agents as possible, they love it as well because they get to save on marketing and sales experience.
So there's a fee to pay to you for using the service, is that right?
You can have, if you just use the dashboard yourself, and it's completely self-service. So if you went and registered and filled in that supplier dashboard, there's never any charge, never will be. But if you want to have, if you like, the advisory services, the training, then there's that £36 training fee as well. And putting very candidly, we've said if more of you get together in the group, we practice what we preach. We're more than happy to even give it. I think that's a pretty cheap fee, but we would even be able to do something on that fee for the more of you as you came on board. So we do that as well in terms of referrals. So for example, if anybody, one of our clients, refers on a new member, we don't do that rather sneaky trick where it's just the person who gets who referred gets a free month. If you refer somebody on who subsequently joins on from the trial, both of you get a free month. And we've got plenty of clients that are essentially not going to be paying us for months because they're just sharing the love, as it were. So yeah, hopefully it works well on that.
So he's going to get a few free months now, is she?
Yeah. I've not even entertained that. I mean, the whole reason, me, Steve, that I'd be honest about that if that was the case here. But the reason I'm doing this today is because we can't go through the normal channels that we used to be able to, and I just thought, well, let's do this through the back door. And there's no cloak and dagger and no secrecy about it, but I just thought it gives any franchise owners an opportunity to just see what they're about and make a choice. And then obviously if enough of us make the choice, we might be heard. I think that's probably where I'm coming from. And why keep reinventing the wheel? I think that's the thing for me is, as a franchise owner, I see it all the time, especially because me and you have been around quite a while, Steve, haven't we? Is that we see things come and go, and people think this is the next best thing since sliced bread, and then actually, well, we were doing that 5 years ago. So if we can share the love, like Simon says, surely that's better for all of us as franchise owners, and we get one over on the competition as well because we're better than they are.
Yeah, shall I tell you a couple of just real world examples, Stephen and David, how I see it working? First of all, because we're whole of market, we can identify to you those, obviously the up and coming suppliers quicker than you ordinarily might have noticed them. Secondly, what you will find is that until they're adopted by head office, when you get to obviously negotiate the big deals, unfortunately, it's a kind of divide and conquer approach, isn't it, by suppliers? And they do chart that, if you've got loads of you, for example, and I'll just use, I don't know, let's say you were using, it doesn't really matter, a board contract or something like that, you would be paying individually more than you would do overall. So what we could identify is if more of you come on board, look, actually, we've got 10 of you that are using Dataloft or XYZ supplier. And we would then be able to go to those directly and say, look, guys, we've got 10 of their offices. Can you give us a better fee? And you guys haven't even had to do anything at that point. But hopefully, just because we obviously understand more of you are using a single supplier, you'll benefit. And then the last thing is, for some people, and I don't know if anyone here did ever get involved, but there are companies that you need to also be warned about much earlier. There's a famous company called Cream Club who went around very famously, and I was like Zoe said before, I was like a moth to the light in terms of looking at what they had to do. But clearly, that was a company that had support issues quite quickly. And actually, I feel it's as important for us to make sure that you are, warned about some of those companies as it is to look at the ones that are really good. So there's a few just key examples there, but I think the main one is, look, people are just really upset at the Wild West nature of charging. You know, it's not so much people understand that Countrywide might get a better rate than a single office agent. Where people get really frustrated is where the guy down the high street, who's exactly the same size business, seems to have got a much better deal just because they've had a relationship with the salesperson. So, you know, that's what we're trying to do, is bring some transparency to it all.
Dave, do you have any questions?
No, not really. I mean, it sounds good. I'll be honest, I didn't really have a good grasp of what Kerfuffle was. I mean, there's so many vendors, new vendor names floating around at the moment. As you say, that no matter how good some of them are, it just becomes noise after a while. So I hadn't really understood what Kerfuffle did, and that sounds like it could be a good filter, you know. So I'll be picking out the free one for sure, and yeah, very probably.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear, David. We'd love to have your feedback. I mean, if anything else, just give us the feedback here. Genuinely, a lot of people are saying nice things, and what you've just hit on there, our slogan is making sense of the noise. You know, and that really does deal with that issue. On our site at the moment, there are over 700 suppliers on there. And what we, as I said, you know, we do a lot of interviews, ironically, probably creating a bit more noise, but you can then go to any of the supplier landing pages. You can see any of the different interviews we've done with these people themselves. So before you've even had to put your head above the kind of parapet and start getting hassled by sales, you can now learn more about these suppliers, and you can talk to them when it's on your terms, you know, rather than the other way around. And I think that's what people are telling us they really like. And yes, the first webinars we do with a supplier is always like a showcase interview. But what we try to do as quickly as possible after that is, look, stop telling us how good you are. Let's talk to your clients. And that's where those panel shows, talking to other agents, you can then quite quickly figure out if this is a company that you feel you want to work with.
So does you, and I'll check out the dashboard, and well, the dashboard, the vendor lists and so on, but is it fairly simple to filter, and, you know, in a sort of Google-esque or TripAdvisor type fashion where you can select, I want this, this, and this, and who's going to provide it?
Yeah, and we do. Rich, do you want to just talk through the way you kind of, one thing, we've got normal categorization in there, so, you know, you can go and have a look at websites, you can have a look at CRM companies. But one thing that I'm Mr. Fluttery Butterfly, if you couldn't tell. What's really good about Paul and Richard, who are the process guys, is they thought, actually, how about we actually treat this from in a different approach as well, and help filtering by solutions. So, Rich, do you want to just give just a brief overview about that?
So we're in the middle of doing it. So you may go on it. It won't be 100% correct at the moment. We are bringing it in. Where what we're trying to do is the agent goes on and says, actually, my issue at the moment, for argument's sake, is, you know, valuation conversion for sales. And as such, there are lots of different products which could help with that. Now, it could be a, you know, Akaboom type solution, which is a valuation letter which goes and makes you aware and sends you a report as and when somebody opens it. It may be an iPad presentation. There could be a whole host of reasons why or how you can improve your valuation conversion. But rather than pigeonholing, you know, it under a category, we're trying to work by solution. So, you know, lead generation, what's lead generation? Now, it could be digital marketing. It could be a leaflet company. There's a whole host of solutions which could improve. So we're trying to improve the search whereby, you know, somebody puts in a problem and we'll have a solution to that challenge.
Okay.
But as a slight caveat, if you went onto it today, it wouldn't necessarily be 100% correct.
Can I chip in there? Because I thought, for me, working with you guys, having the chat initially with you, or call it the MOT if you like, was better, because you were able then to sort of ascertain, you almost filtered before you got to the dashboard. So I was able to look at, well, what do I need? What sort of things do I need? And it was just by having that conversation with Richard and the team to understand that I actually probably don't need that bit of kit, but I probably need this bit of kit. And then you can then start looking at the different types of supplier, and it might be about cost. It might be about how slick it is. But that for me helped prior to, if you go on the dashboard and look at 600 suppliers, it is going to be a bit overwhelming.
Still
Whereas if you can just
overwhelming,
get
isn't
to the point where there's maybe five different supplies that you need, and then do it, I think that helped me no end.
I think I should have said that at the beginning, shouldn't I, Zoe? Actually, but as a result of what we do in that supplier MOT, is we come back to you with your own bespoke recommendations. And we always try to limit it to only 3, because you can only look at, it doesn't matter how simple a supplier is. If we as business owners can quite often choose something that's right for the business, but actually if we don't get the team going with us, you just keep throwing them stuff on what we got this week, it is never, you say, oh, we're only using 30% or 50% of the package. Well, yes, because they've got so many different things. And what we've seen a lot of agencies, estate and letting agencies, is their kind of tech stack of suppliers is a bit like a Jenga pile. You've added a bit there because it solved a particular problem, but it's not joined together. And where I think we have over the years, we've got a lot of experience now. We can say, look, that supplier plays really nicely with that supplier, whereas actually that supplier is pretty much stepping on the toes of that one. So why are you paying for 2 different products anyway? That's where I think we add a level of value that people seem to think is worth its salt these days.
And we also have a bit of insight. So, there may be a supplier who you really want to use and they're suggesting their onboarding period is 6 weeks, but we've spoke to 12 other agents who are saying, actually, it's more like 15. Now, that isn't a reason to make a decision or not to make a decision, but it actually helps you plan and forward plan accordingly, because we'll tend to have that insight.
So I hope that's been really helpful. Is there anything else anybody would like to ask? Donna, is there anything you want to ask if you're there?
I think we'll just have a look on the dashboard and see what your website will obviously tell us all what you do, basically.
Of course.
I'll have a look on the dashboard and see, because I am looking for some other suppliers for different bits and pieces. I mean, the biggest thing, as you say, is there's so much noise out there, as David said, that you just don't know which one you're going to go to. God knows how many suppliers we've had sent through to us from central office that, again, and then they get dropped, so you don't know if they're the current suppliers or not the current suppliers, etc. And I don't know if you get the list or where the list is, but I don't know who the current suppliers for Belvoir are. Do you, David?
No.
Apparently it's on the portal somewhere.
Which portal's that?
I have not a clue. I've never found it yet.
Is the portal?
Stephen,
apparently it's on the portal, so
Stephen, one point on the site which I would really suggest doing, and this isn't a sales pitch because this is still completely free of charge, is take an hour out, get all of your supplies of what you're paying for, whether that's through your bank statements or not, and upload them onto the portal. Because what happens, and I'm not suggesting any of you guys are in this position, but 90% of the time, agents will be paying for products which are using 50% of product A, 50% of product B, whereas we know that product A has had some development and actually it does pretty much what product B does. So it's worth just listing them all on the platform, and you'll just look very easily. And again, as a free service for you guys, if you want to let us know and send it over, we'll happily just glance over it for you and give you our opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idea.
Can I just say that's it sounds really good, because I had a situation, I've had a couple of situations where unfortunately the people that I used on my telephone, which was a recommendation from one of another franchisee, a larger franchisee, and they turned out to be absolutely diabolical. They were absolutely terrible. They're called 4Com. Do not go anywhere near them. And I was distraught and I didn't know who to use. And, imagine trying to find somebody out of all those hundreds of people out there. And, we get calls all the time from different suppliers. And you think, well, where do you go? Because you sign up and you're in some long contract. I actually ended up using my IT people, because my IT people I've used ever since I started my business, which is 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just a month to month. So, that situation I wouldn't have been in if I'd have known about yourselves, because I could have gone and had a look on your dashboard to see who you've found the information,
you know that they're brilliant to use. And I think it's good that you've spoken to their customers, because, you know, the customers will recommend them. You know, you've sorted them out. And another situation I had was photocopying, the photocopier. I actually asked Central, who does Grantham use? Because Grantham is you know, our main office. And we use a company called, they use Office Friends. And I've just gone into a contract with them, but, you know, are they the best? Just because Grantham are using them, it doesn't mean that they are, you know, the best suppliers. I might be paying quite a lot. So I think it's really good what you just discussed with Stephen, that you get, you know, a list of what people are using, because we've said about this so many times on our BNGs that we should be supplying this information and sharing it. It's crazy that we don't. You know, there's so many hundreds of offices and nobody's sharing this information.
And I think the thing for doing this today, Donna, is that we tried to get a supplier to a meeting, and they wouldn't allow it. So then, you know, and I think there was a caveat: if she got 20 offices on board, they'd entertain recommending her. But how on earth can a supplier get 20 offices on board if no one's recommending them? So that, you know, this is, for me, is another way around it. You know, and we get a lot of support from Belvoir, but I just found that this is a nice independent way without being salesy. That means we can make those decisions, and maybe, like Simon says, if there's enough of us, we get an even better deal then. So it's just, you know, it's just another way around it for me.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like you say, you're not reinventing the wheel. You don't need to, because people have gone through it and they know.
Yeah.
So why not use the people that are recommended, and we know that they give the service? We don't know when we take these people on. They tell you, but then you get into the contract and then you just think the service is terrible. And, you know, communication, copy, and anything that we use, you know, it really needs to be spot on. So
this is the reason, to be honest, Donna, this is the reason why Central Office doesn't allow it to be at the BNGs, because as you had an experience with a telephone provider that was crap, if they get associated with recommending or endorsing anybody, even remotely, then obviously they come in for the flak. And I don't know which is the large office that recommended it, but at least with Kerfuffle, you've got reviews. So it's like Trusted Trader, Trustpilot, whatever. You know, you've got reviews there to have a look at, to make up your own decision. Whereas a central office recommends a supplier or promotes a supplier or showcases the supplier, they get associated with it. So I do understand their point, their view on it. I do, on the other side of things, though, think that sometimes you do need to be able to have a platform to share what we've got. I mean, I've been doing this 25 years, and the amount of times that I've had to ask central office, do we have a recommended supplier for this? And they say, well, not really. It's a matter of you finding your own. So, you know, it's 25 years of reinventing the wheel, basically.
I think there was I think that's so interesting listening to what you say there, because of course to get the best offers often, and it's really difficult sometimes, you know, to get the best offers, they will have to guarantee that for a supplier that they will promote them and everything else. And as you said there, Dave, quite rightly, they will then kind of own a bit of that responsibility. So it is quite tough. But ultimately, we're here, as we said. How would anybody learn about that? You know, that telephone company Donna was just talking about there, if it wasn't for the case that she went on and put a review there and shared that with other people? You know, it is this thing that actually in a estate agency and lettings agency is everything to us. We think it's this massive industry, but unfortunately it's not like the consumer world where there's millions and millions of reviews out there, is there? And so they do target us in that way, that they know that actually a lot of the time bad news stories don't travel as they should do. So, you know, if you use Kerfuffle right and you put in what you get out, then we should at least get rid of those, you know, those really dangerous rogue traders at least, because you know, that's got to stop, hasn't it, really?
Do you have a policy removing people if you receive complaints or investigating complaints?
We won't remove them, David, because what we do think is it's vital to flag them as you know, as one-star providers. What we will do, though, of course, is anybody we're talking to consultatively, we were saying, look, just to give you a heads up, XYZ company is getting some, you know, he's getting some terrible customer service reviews here. So just be very careful.
Steve, just sorry. And on that,
was going to just say I've left bad reviews on the Kerfuffle site, and they're still there. So I know that
believe you've left bad reviews anywhere, Zoe. So nice.
Steve, just on that point, if a bad review comes in, we won't necessarily publish it instantly. We will give the supplier a chance to respond, because it could essentially be, you know, another supplier's friend who's leaving that bad review. So we will investigate it, but we won't remove it if it's completely. We won't remove it unless there's a really valid reason to do so.
No, the only one I did have to remove was the review was so over the top. It actually went. It could have gone legal. So I had to just warn the estate agent. Look, you've probably. I understand why you've done it, but just for your advice, they can bizarrely, you know, they could come back at you for. You know, for overstepping the mark there. So I just warned her, look, by all means put 1 star on there, but just tone down what you've said, because if you leave yourself open in that way, that, you know, that's how some of those other companies, those rogue traders we were talking about before, got out of it. They actually used the law against people, which is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
So I hope that has been really useful.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the website anyway.
Yeah. And what I will do is I'm going to download the video, and then I'll chuck it on the Belvoir franchisee site, and I'll send it to anyone that's registered, just to sort of try and get the message out there. And obviously I've just stuck Simon and Richard's email addresses on there. I hope you don't mind, guys.
No,
if anyone wants to get in touch. And I just want to thank you both for your time today, because I appreciate it muchly, and thanks for all the support you've given me, to be honest, over the last few months. Well.
Look, it's lovely working with, you know, we want to be seen as in your corner. You know, that's where we come from, and there is a lot of, as we said, there's a lot of other suppliers out there. So if we can help one bit, we're genuinely here to want to help on that. So we'd love to work with you. As you said, that free month trial is there. We'd be happy to pick up. So thank you once again.